Welcome back. My name is Cindy, and on this channel, I like to talk about all things relationships, romantic and parental. I usually drop a new video every Monday, so be sure to tune in on Mondays for my relationship tips. But in this video, I will be reviewing Married at First Sight, Season 12, Episode 14. So be sure to like this video, subscribe, and click that notification bell. We're 2 weeks before Decision Day, and Dr. Pepper is back. The couples are sharing things from their past, and Paige and Chris are not on this episode. Hallelujah. This week, I'm going to start with Jacob and Haley. Someone please go and save Jake. Haley is such a mean girl. So they started out on a date where they went to the batting cage, and Haley, being the competitive freak that she is, she got there a little early so she can make sure she would win. And when Jake got there, I mean, he couldn't hit a ball to save his life. So she was able to win. And of course, she was rubbing it in his face. So they go to sit down afterwards, and she was telling him how when she was a kid, her parents took her to a Little League tryout, and she refused to wear a helmet. And then when her mother had taken her to swimming lessons, she would take out her towel and go and lay in the sun and not want to get in the pool. And Jake was like, "Oh, so I see you have a little diva in you." And she, of course, got offended. And she was like, "Diva? More like strong-minded." Actually, a 4-year-old with that much attitude is just team too much in my book. But anyway, she was also saying how she's played basketball, she's done cheerleading, she's played softball, and her parents had always required her to see things through. They tried to, expose her to many different things, but they held her feet to the fire to make sure that she would see things through. I guess this is why she's been hanging on to this process, so she can see it through, even though they're not making any kind of progress. I mean, last week I thought there was a glimpse of hope that they were at least going to complete the season on a positive note, but they just took 20 steps back. So then Haley makes a comment about Jake's shoes, and, the camera pans down and we see that he's wearing jeans and dress-up shoes. And so she was, saying something slick. And then they go on a second date where Jake takes her to the mini golf course. He kept calling it put. And I'm like, what the heck? And so she actually wasn't that good at it. In her confessional, she's like, well, I guess I can let him win at something. She's just rude. Like, the more and more she interacts with Jake, the more I'm just like annoyed with her. So Jake had some pictures from his past, and he was showing her. And one of the pictures, Jake was wearing this, I think it was like a muscle shirt and some shorts to a company event. Oh, Haley, they didn't fire you for wearing that? With her little snooty attitude. And Jake was like, no, they actually were just laughing. People in IT are not that stiff, which I thought was funny because she's always coming for him, saying something slick. And it's like, can the man be who he is? Yeah, he's a little quirky, but like, just embrace the fact that that's who he is. She is trying to change him so bad. It is just completely annoying. They had that write a letter to your younger self exercise. Jake's letter was short and sweet. You know how he likes to keep things straight to the point, no chaser. He was telling himself not to be a bitch and to also embrace adversity and change. And then Haley had a slick comment, of course, and she was just kind of like, that's it? And he was like, yeah, I wouldn't want to tell myself too much because then I would probably make different decisions. So then she reads her letter, and her letter was basically just telling herself that at 15, she's going to learn a lot and that she should listen to her mom because her mom is always right. She made a rude comment about Jake's letter, but her letter wasn't that in depth. I mean, she pretty much was talking about her failed relationship when she was 15. That was pretty much it. So it was just kind of like, you didn't give yourself that much insight. So Jacob asked her, what would you tell yourself the night you got married? And she was like, well, I don't know. And she was like, what about you? And at first he didn't want to answer, but of course she was pushing for an answer. So he was like, return the bracelet. And when he said that initially, I was kind of lost. I was like, what is he talking about? But then they did a flashback. So Jake had gotten her a really nice bracelet for a wedding gift. She decided that she wasn't going to wear it at the wedding. Then she let her mom take it home with her. And so she's never worn the bracelet. The bracelet's never been in her possession. And so Jake feels some type of way. And then, of course, she starts to deflect and she's like, well, it didn't cross my mind. And he was like, yeah, that's the problem. And I don't understand how she doesn't see something like that would be really hurtful. I mean, when men give women jewelry, I don't think it's some kind of spare of the moment, just whatever. They actually put some time and thought into a gift like that. And so she's like, well, you didn't wear my hat. And then they do a flashback and it's some little dusty hat that she got. And he was like, that $20 hat versus my $800 bracelet, I don't see how that's the same. And she's like, you're really going to argue with me over a piece of jewelry? And he was like, it's not about it being a piece of jewelry. It's something that I gave to you and you just never thought to even have it in your possession. I'm not saying that you should wear it every day, but you never thought it should be at least in the apartment. So they sit there very awkward, and I don't feel like the bracelet and the hat are the same. Like, there's no comparison there. She was wrong, but like usual, she didn't want to take any accountability. The next time we see them on screen, Dr. Pepper is coming to visit, and she was like, let's review some of the questions that you guys had. Haley was concerned as to why Jacob was wearing dress-up shoes for leisure. And he was just kind of like, that's pretty shallow. And she was like, no, you know, it sounds like a surface question, but there's something deep. Like, I need to know, what is it that is going on? And he was like, there's nothing going on. I just prefer these type of shoes. I don't feel comfortable in tennis shoes. So it just kind of is what it is. And Dr. Pepper chimed in and was like, Jake, do you feel like Haley is judging you? And Jake said yes. And he was saying how there was like certain respects that she just never gave him from the jump. And he brings up the bracelet. And then Haley, of course, is getting defensive once again. Dr. Pepper set her straight. She told her, you know, he picked out something for you prior to meeting you as his wife. So he probably is genuinely feeling rejected. Because it's a statement piece and you never thought to even have it in your possession. And so she was like, I already told him why I don't have the bracelet. I don't understand what's the big deal. So just rude. Haley is a straight up mean girl. She wants things to go her way. And she had said that she gets along with everybody. I don't see that at all, because to get along with everybody, you need to be open-minded. You need to be able to take responsibility. You need to be able to take some level of criticism, even if you just laugh it off. But the minute you say anything to her that she doesn't agree with, she catches an attitude. And I don't see how that is something that everybody would be attracted to. At the end of the episode, she FaceTimes her mom and she was saying how, okay, mom, yeah, I need you to send me that bracelet overnight so I can give it back to him. And it was just kind of like, give it back to him? That's not what he was asking. And whatever she told her mom is jumping on her bandwagon saying, oh, you should never ask for a gift back. How dare he? They were basically talking shit about Jacob. And I was thinking, oh, that's where she gets it from, because they both sound completely ridiculous. And I really hope that Jake's DMs are flooded with messages with women who are going to appreciate him for who he is and accept how he is and love him, because next, we have Ryan and Clara. So Ryan actually visits Clara's childhood home twice in the episode. His people were nowhere to be found. Initially, he sat down with the mom one-on-one, and, the mom was saying how she's very happy for Clara. She wonders how his mom would describe him. And he said, oh, well, I'm sure my mom would say that I was needy and I was just that kid who would cry when I lost games. And I can totally see that, because Ryan is just like, I don't even know what the word is, but he's annoying as hell. And then Ryan brought up the church thing, and Clara's mom told him that she actually didn't start going to church until after Clara was born. She had seen something and felt that being in church would be good for her kids. So she's thinking that once Claire has kids, she'll probably feel the same way and want to raise them in the church. Afterwards, we see that they come over a second time. Clara takes Ryan around. Her old room is now a home gym. She was telling Ryan how she had lime green walls in her bedroom growing up. And then she showed him this costume and said that she was a big deal in the show choir world. And then we see them sit down to have dinner with Clara's parents. And Ryan was like, so what are some of the things that you were not allowed to do? And Clara quickly piped up and was like, oh, you know, I had that Usher's Confession CD, and my mom was like, I couldn't listen to it. She even broke the CD, and I couldn't have MySpace. And when I did finally was able to have MySpace, I couldn't put any pictures on there. So it was cute to see. Clara's mom told Ryan to make sure every day is decision day, and I didn't really get that. But then the next time we see them, they are sitting down with Dr. Pepper, and Dr. Pepper, of course, just came out guns blazing and was like, so have you guys talked about some of the things that we talked about last time? They were like, oh, yeah, we talked about it. I think we solved everything. Dr. Pepper asked Ryan about withholding intercourse, and here go Clara chiming in. I actually asked for that because, you know, I would always lead in my other relationships with having sex. So I had told the experts that I wanted to be with someone who take things slow. And she was like, you know, I guess I should be careful for what I asked for. I really wanted her to just let Ryan answer that question, but she didn't. And it was like she was trying to protect him in a way. She probably knew Dr. Pepper would go in on him. So she's trying to like jump in there and say anything and everything to try to protect him. But Dr. Pepper did not let him off the hook. She was like, Ryan, how do you think this relationship is going to transition? And he, of course, was like, sure. He said that he sees potential with Clara and that he is trying to build an impactful relationship. He doesn't want to feel like things are forced, blah, blah, blah. Typical Ryan answer. They also did the write a letter to your young self activity. And Ryan, he starts reading his letter and he's saying how, I wouldn't change a thing. I was so proud of you when I was your age. Like, just being obnoxious and acting like he's so perfect, which was so annoying. And then Clara read her letter. She talked about the daily struggle about feeling loved and knowing that she's enough. And so she starts to get emotional. And Ryan's just sitting there with a blank stare. He didn't say anything to console her. He didn't hold her hand. He didn't do anything. He's just sitting there. And I'm just kind of like, you guys have such a magnetic connection. I don't understand why he's not comforting you right now. They are just a fraud. And I'm just looking forward to what they have to say on decision day at the Next, we have Brianna and Vincent. So we see them meet up at the dance studio, and Brianna was telling Vincent how she did a variety of different dances and that dance was a passion for her, but she felt like she wouldn't make money being a professional dancer. So she knew she was good at math, so she decided to take the route of being an engineer. She also opened up to him and told him about growing up as a darker brown skinned girl. And it wasn't until she was about 15, 16 where she started to feel comfortable in her skin. She's pouring her heart out, and Vincent is just kind of sitting there. And I'm not sure if he just doesn't know what to say or he just doesn't want to show emotion on camera. It's very awkward. And then Brie was saying how, you know, when they have their future kids, she wants to encourage them to let them know that they can do anything and to have confidence in themselves. So then we see that Vincent brought Brianna to a bodega where they got some Spanish food. They sat outside and they had a talk. And Vinny was saying how, you know, growing up in the Dominican Republic, you were either doing well or you were in poverty. His family had came to America, and I guess they were grinding. Felt very lonely as a child, and he didn't feel like he got all the love that he needed when he was a kid. And Brianna was in her confessional saying that, you know, she feels bad and she wants to be able to give him that love that he was missing. And we see them sit down with Dr. Pepper, and of course Dr. Pepper is asking the questions. So she was asking about, you know, their sleeping habits, and Bree was really adamant about him waking up early, and she was saying how he's on his phone at night and that he should just basically go to bed early. And Dr. Pepper was like, that's not a compromise. You guys need to come up with some type of arrangement where on certain days he gets to sleep in and have that kind of discussion. Just telling him to go to bed early, that's not going to work. And then they start talking about Brianna's fear of giving birth. And just like Clara, she jumps in and tries to minimize her fear in saying that, you know, she definitely wants to give birth. She just is a little fearful of, you know, the things that will happen during pregnancy. And Dr. Pepper asks, what is the solution? Like, how are they going to work on this? And Vincent was saying, oh, you know, we just have to do some research. He kind of said it in a way where it was a little dismissive, I think. I don't think he was trying to be dismissive, but he was just kind of like, you know, there's other people who have had high blood pressure and they've been able to, you know, have kids. Dr. Pepper tried to clean it up and say, oh, so do you mean that you'll take, you know, the necessary precautions medically to make sure that Brianna is okay? And he was like, yeah. And then Dr. Pepper said, so what if Brianna cannot physically have children? Are you okay with adopting? And it was an awkward silence. And then he was like, that's something that I would have to, you know, think about. But in his confession, he was saying how adoption is not what he wants. And I think it's a typical thing that men say. He wasn't saying anything that I think most men, at least the ones that I've been in contact with, don't say. A lot of times men do just want to have their own biological children. But I think they can explore other options. They could also have a surrogate. So this is like a discussion that they have to continue having. I'm not sure where this is going, but it feels like it is going to be a deal breaker for Vincent if Brianna can't actually have his baby. So we'll just have. And last, we have Eric and Virginia. They go to visit Eric's childhood home. Eric is saying how, you know, family means the world to him. And he starts showing Virginia kind of around his house a little bit. And then he took out some albums and was showing her some of the things that, you know, he's been able to accomplish in his life. And he was showing her some, I think some rings or something from, you know, being in the military and being a pilot. She was basically referring to the concept of Boy Scouts, but it did sound kind of rude for her to say, oh, it's just like being in the Boy Scouts. So then he continues to talk about how family means a lot to him, and then starts crying. And so she was like, you know, you're saying that family means a lot to you, but you don't reach out to my family. You don't have their numbers. You don't talk to them. I've talked to your mom every day. And I've reached out to your brother and your sister-in-law, but you haven't done that with my family. And, you know, Eric was like, well, I've been kind of busy and I've been, you know, focusing on us. And I can understand where he's coming from because they just literally just got married. So to try to like get in good with the family and do all of that, that is, and what is she talking to his mom about every day? I mean, at the wedding, the mom was definitely not here for Virginia. So I'd be interested to know what their conversations are about. I mean, is she just having small talk like, hey, how you doing? Or what? But so she was crying about it. And he said that he would make a better effort. And then we see that he FaceTimed Virginia's dad, and he was talking to their dad, and the dad pretty much said the same thing. You know, it is important that they focus on each other because they have all the time in the world to get to know the family, and that Eric doesn't owe them any apologies. So the dad was telling Eric that with Virginia, you have to earn everything. She has a hard time trusting people, and he acknowledged, you know, her childhood was rocky. And, but he said that he's proud to have Eric as a son-in-law. And I'm like, how are you proud to have Eric as a son-in-law? You don't even know him, but okay. And so, he was saying, you know, marriage is a lot of work. And of course, here go Eric said something about the traditional ways of marriage, how marriage should be. And the dad corrected him and said, there are a lot of ways for people to have good marriages. And then we see Eric and Virginia meet up at the basketball court. Virginia was saying how basketball was a big part of her life growing up. She really enjoys playing basketball, and she, played for her school. And she was sharing some pictures of herself with Eric. And she told him how at senior night, neither one of her parents were there. And so her siblings had to step in for them. And ever since then is when she felt rely and depend on herself. And Eric made a statement about him wanting her to need him. And she was like, why can't I just want you instead of need you? Pretty much shutting that down. And then we saw that Virginia sat down with Eric's sister-in-law. She was telling her how they hadn't fought in 3 days, and she was asking her questions about how Eric is. He and his brother pretty much are not good with talking about their feelings. They shut down a lot. And then Virginia brings up her friend situation. The sister-in-law was looking at Virginia kind of crazy because, like most of us, we can't understand what this obsession is with her friends. And she was like saying how she knew a lot of her friends for a long time. And the sister-in-law in her confessional was saying how Eric needs to feel like he's her number one. And if he doesn't, they will continue to have problems. Eric will continue to be upset. So then we see them sit down with Dr. Pepper. She gave them a bit of advice saying that part of marriage is healing from your past, and how they need to work on their communication issues. They needed to stop sweeping things under the rug. Dr. Pepper asked them to write down what their goals are for the marriage and to discuss, the different behaviors that they're going to compromise on. So after she left, Eric and Virginia started talking, and Virginia was just kind of like, I don't understand, why you have this certain standard of marriage. Like, we are supposed to come up with how our marriage is going to be, not just some standard in your head. And he was saying, there are certain things in marriage that have to happen. And they were kind of going back and forth. And then she was like, well, what if you're away and I'm out drinking with my friends? Like, why can't I just sleep over their house? And Eric was like, that's not appropriate. And she was like, well, what if it's like raining? It would just make more sense to stay over there. And I'm really trying to figure out, is Virginia saying these things to get under Eric's skin? Or is she that naive to think that as a married woman, it's okay to sleep at your guy friends' houses? Whether your husband is in town, out of town, I don't think that's appropriate. And she was saying, well, what am I supposed to do? Come back to an empty house? Yes, that's what you're supposed to do. As a married woman, when you go out, you need to be responsible enough to get your ass home every night. So I'm not sure why she keeps bringing this up. What do you guys think about this whole sleeping over her male friends' houses? Do you think that Eric is overreacting, or do you think that it's inappropriate? Comment below. Let me know your thoughts. That's pretty much it for this episode. Be sure to subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.